Hi there, welcome to the Raising Cinephiles podcast, a show about passing on your love of cinema to the next generation. I'm your host, Jessica Kantor, and I have worked in all facets of the entertainment industry for the last 20 years, and recently became a mom. Always remember that myself and guests are speaking from personal experience and not giving parenting advice. Today, I am joined by actress, model, and entrepreneur Vanessa Simmons. She's recently launched a new platform called Euphoria, and I am so excited to speak with you today. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk films.
Awesome. I'm going to start with my first question.
Okay.
What is your first movie memory?
My first movie memory is watching a film I think we are all familiar with called The Wizard of Oz. It is one of my dad's favorite films, and I just remember him sharing that with me and just how exciting it was, I think it's a timeless story and a timeless movie that even, exists today, and I could share with my daughter, and just it's a great film.
Do you remember about how old you were?
Pretty young. It's been some years, being that I am 40 now, but I would have to say before the age of 5. But I remember watching it in the living room and just the different emotions I went through with Dorothy and what is going on, but just how exciting and scared when the Wicked Witch of the West came up and just all the feelings it evoked. And I would say that's probably when I fell in love with the excitement of what film is.
Yeah. First of all, Wizard of Oz is a classic and comes up a lot as people's interesting in coming up now, our generation showing it to kids of how it is truly still a little scary and still magical, and how we introduce that world to children without freaking them out. But I'm so happy to hear that inspired a love of cinema for you.
Yeah, just following that yellow brick road, getting to Oz, magical, and it's definitely one that my daughter enjoys too. Yeah.
Do you remember how old she was when you introduced it to her?
Oh, young. She's 9 now, so I would probably say 4.
Okay. 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I really asked that question because I'm trying to figure out when to show my son different films. And it's a delicate balance. If you wait too long, you miss that window for them to really be caught up in it. And
in awe, yeah.
Yeah, and if you do it too young, then you scare the bejeebus out of them.
Scare them because they'll be having dreams about the Wicked Witch of the West and the flying monkeys.
Exactly. So what was movie going like for you after that? Was it a family thing? Was it something you explored with your friends as you got older?
When I was younger, it was definitely a movie thing. I definitely remember the movie theater me and my family used to frequent all the time when I was younger. I'm from New York, and we'd always go to the Sunrise Cinema in Queens, New York, outside of the Green Acres Mall. And it was always an experience. It started with family, and then as I got older, it definitely started to become a thing to do with friends. I remember having my first date. I don't think my parents knew it was a date, but going to see Selena at 13 years old. And so, even to this day, that's a solid date night for me and my husband, is going to the movies. Yeah. It's a good time always.
Yes. I also grew up in New York, and I love exploring films with my friends. The theater I went to a lot was in Lincoln Square. I lived near, but there was a freedom being a city kid. You could kind of just go to the movies whenever you wanted or after school.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, can't forget when the teen movies started coming out, and we got to, explore that and imagine what high school would be like coming out of 8th grade, going into the high school era, the She's All That and the 10 Things I Hate About You. And that whole era was a moment in time for sure.
Yeah. And Clueless was around.
Clueless started my love of it all and inspired me for through my fashion era for forever. Clueless is classic. I still will watch Clueless as a comfort film to this day.
Me too. I love it. I still dream of that closet
Still, like, I don't think anyone's topped it.
No, and I remember, I worked for a little bit in technology, and I would see startups try and do this with different closet apps or ways to kind of see your wardrobe. And it took so much work to input your clothing, and it never really worked. And I was just, one day it'll happen.
One day. We're still working on the technology to get there. And when it gets there, I definitely want to still have my closet like that. That's still a dream of mine at 40. Share Horowitz closet.
Exactly. I love that you said Clueless inspired your kind of move into fashion and some of your work. Can you speak to that a little bit about how that came to be after seeing that film?
It just opened my eyes to what fashion can be. In New York, I think the fashion was a little bit further ahead here in Los Angeles at the time, and how the kids were dressing. And I was just like, wow, is that what high school is like in Beverly Hills? Because I aspire. And I feel like even that film inspired me to even have fashion aspirations to be a designer. And, me and my sister, we started a sneaker company at a really young age called Pastry, where we designed sneakers for girls because we felt like we were left out of that market. Mm-hmm. And so Pastry definitely played Clueless, played a big part in like pastry and how far we felt like we could go above and over the top with our designs and making it girly, because Clueless did not spare any bit of girliness when it came to that film. Like, it was every bit of girly. And like I said, like, I still love that film to this day. The fashion is still inspiring generations. My daughter said that her best friend is dressing up as Cher for Halloween. And I'm like, do you guys even know what Clueless is? She called Cher Heather. So I was like, who's Heather? I don't remember there being a Heather in the movie. So like, they still have to catch up a bit, because I think like there's a lot of obviously very mature themes in that film, and they shouldn't be seeing it. But it's amazing to see the film is inspiring even like the younger generations. Yeah.
And I wonder if they were confused between Clueless and Heathers.
Yeah. The Heathers. Which is also making a huge comeback too.
Yeah. Especially, Heathers especially, and I can link this into some of the work that you're doing, comments on mental health. And I think in today's, the way what's happening in schools and for kids today, a movie like that, I don't think could get made. I think it would be too controversial.
Very controversial, but I'm happy that it does exist, and it was able to exist in the time that it happened, so that we can go back for reference, because the themes are very much so relevant to everything that's happening today, the culture in high school. You look at shows like Euphoria and stuff, and I'm surprised to know like this is the culture in high school and that's happening with like young people.
There was another show that came out around the same time season 1 of Euphoria came out on, I think it was also on Max, and it was written from it was actually written by a teenage girl, and I'm blanking on the name of it. And it also took place in California. And the show called Generation, and I felt it represented a little bit more naturally. It wasn't the 40-year-old male version of high school, which was what Euphoria was made by. It was more where there was just like a little bit more of an innocence to the teenagers' exploration of themselves and their sexualities that felt, it rang more true to what I experienced in New York City growing up, where like we had the ability to do terrible things and be as bold and destructive as you see in Euphoria, but we still approached it with an innocence, and it kind of saved us.
I have got to check that out. Yeah, I've never seen that. Generation.
Yeah, it was only one season, but I definitely think it resonated with me a little bit more than the shock value of Euphoria.
Because Euphoria scares me for my daughter's high school experience, and she's in 4th grade, so we're nearing that. We still have some time, thank you, Jesus, but we're getting closer, and Euphoria made me go, oh my gosh, this seems extremely different from when I was in high school.
Yeah, and I think that is like a glorified version, a little bit more. I mean, it's like watching a train wreck You can't look away. It's also beautiful. It's a beautifully shot. Like the makeup that they do on
Love the makeup.
is amazing, right?
Yes.
But I think the themes are coming from the perspective of an adult.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you started a sneaker brand with your sister after being inspired by Clueless, or not the only inspiration.
One of the many inspirations.
Yeah. Are there any other movies from that time? I ask guests a lot this question of, was there a moment or was there a film that you saw that made you think you wanted to work in the industry?
Absolutely. It was introducing Dorothy Dandridge, and Halle Berry was portraying Dorothy Dandridge, and just seeing her story and, what the industry was like in the 50s and 60s for women of color. And I was fascinated. I was fascinated by her talent. Obviously, she was gorgeous, and the barriers that she broke down, but then also deeply saddened by the way her story ended, But it inspired me to want to be an actress. I feel like that was the moment where I was like, okay, I think I can make film a thing. Yeah.
And what was that journey like? Was that still living in New York, or were you on the West Coast?
I was still living in New York. I lived in New York until I was in my 20s. So I even went to college in New York, and that journey I got into theater. I started doing even like pageantry just to kind of like work on my confidence a bit and, help me be a little bit more extroverted, because I can be kind of, introverted at times. But if you're going to pursue a career in acting in front of the camera, you've really got to have that kind of confidence that glows. And so I'd say about 16, I started doing like pageants and stuff so I can be on stage. And I worked on theater projects all through like elementary school, high school, and those all kind of like fed into the dream of me becoming a professional actress.
Yeah. And I think in the industry, it takes a little bit of time to get roles that match your taste, or, make films from any perspective. It just takes time building your craft. You need every opportunity you can get, it's that whole thing. And so I wanted to ask kind of what that journey was for you of making work and developing your tastes in parallel and how you were able to merge that.
I'm still on that journey. You're always learning in acting. And if you're doing it right, you're always working on your craft. You're always going to be a student of the craft. So it's taken, meeting with a lot of different teachers, taking a lot of different workshops and classes, and getting myself back on stage, which I just did last week. I did a play not last week, 2 weeks ago now, called Rotten Apple. And I got the chance to play on stage with some heavyweights, people I watched growing up on sitcoms, which was awesome. And then the year before that, I was in a play called Set It Off, which was the stage adaptation of the movie, which was amazing. I got to play Vivica Fox's role of Frankie. So I feel like that journey and evolution as an actress is just always happening. And I did have the misconception that I would move to Hollywood and immediately get all the roles, the dream roles that I wanted. But that is just not the case. You have to build your resume. You have to continuously be studying and being a student of the craft, and just, hit the ground running. And that journey is just always going to be evolving.
Yeah. I mean, the arts are such an interesting thing, because when you really do it for the love and the craft of the art itself, like most people don't really start to find their voice in what they do until they're, mature. Like I talked to my brother a lot about this. He's a cellist, and he also was an entrepreneur and does other things. And he thinks, after having gone to a music conservatory and having pursued that for some time, now he is better than he ever thought he would be, just because he plays for the love of it and develops his craft. And he always looked to this cellist named Pablo Casals, who felt like in his 70s is when he found his prime as an artist. As a woman in this industry, it is so hard to reconcile that against the pressure of being a woman in the industry of, time is not on your side. Yet as an artist, you want time to be able to sit and develop and cure your craft. So
yeah. And it comes with life experience too, a lot. Like when I moved out here in my younger 20s, I didn't have the life experience that I have now. So I do feel like I'm coming more into who I am as an artist. And it's a beautiful thing. You know, I can feel myself developing and getting better and getting stronger in front of the camera. And it comes with experience, both in front of the camera and just in life in general. So you have life to breathe into your character and really help like tell the story.
Yeah. You know, I'm 42. And so I like love being in my 40s. You know, I think there's something about like not caring in the same way about the things that don't matter.
Yes. You were preaching to the choir. I just turned 40 and I was so fearful just of the sound of it. Like, oh, I'm going to be 40. I feel like I should be here in life or, you know, experience this. But now that I've turned 40, I'm starting to realize there's a lot of things that I just don't care about anymore and just more into like who I am truly as a person and how to connect and, you know, be in alignment with myself. It's been a great thing.
Yeah. And especially, you know, with kids too, it kind of forces you to not have time for anything but the important stuff, you know?
Absolutely. Motherhood will definitely do that to you, but it's a beautiful thing and blessed to be able to be a mother and to see 40 and beyond. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the community you built with Euphoria.
Yeah, so I'm building a wellness and beauty platform that is really geared towards giving people inspiration to live their very best life through tips and tricks and different products and practices they can do to enhance their well-being. In 2020, we were all so fearful and we got locked in our houses and COVID was running around and we just all wanted to be our healthiest. And so I started archiving information. I have been researching for years. Like I live this wellness thing. Like I'm always trying to find the next thing to, you know, enhance my life. So I decided to make it into a business and to use it as an opportunity to educate people on practices they can do to enhance their well-being in different ways. And it is so inspiring. And I'm really excited to launch it on a larger level and really put wellness in the spotlight. I feel like it is something that it could be really impactful and is important to kind of like share with people. So I'm excited about it.
That's amazing. And especially with raising a young woman, you know, on the precipice of those teenage years that are so hard.
Yes. Pre-teen, she likes to call herself already. Okay. She's not. Yeah. It's fun.
Pre-teen.
Yeah, oh, God.
I was really like, you know, I had a little bit of gender disappointment when I discovered I did IVF. So I was like, I discovered very early that I was going to I only had one viable embryo and it was a boy. And, you know, having my son, I have no gender disappointment at all. He's the most amazing thing. But now I hear from my friends who have slightly older girls and I'm like, oh, I don't have to deal with a lot of what cultural pressures.
Absolutely. It's a lot and you get the sass and, you know, everything that comes along with it. But it's also very beautiful and, you know, teaching her about like self-care because it's never too early for that. And, you know, all the things that I'm gathering up with Euphoria, I definitely make her a part of it and make sure I gather information for how we can teach our children even to be better at a younger age and, you know, deep breathing and affirmations and, the importance of, you know, physically moving your body daily and all of those good things. So it's been quite a beautiful thing. And I hope that she keeps these tips and tricks and passes it on to her children and, you know, researches more and finds other things as time go on.
Yeah. You know, recently I interviewed the folks from the creators behind Apple's Physical. And, you know, the show really kind of delves into a very honest look at an eating disorder. And, you know, some of that conversation that we had together was about how much of it is changing generational views on how women have to show up in the world. And, there was like, at least for my mom, like you could never be rich enough and you could never be skinny enough. That was the idea for her, the aspirations that were passed on from my grandmother to her. And so it's such a jarring change when I'm like, I'm going to have the pizza.
Have the pizza, go after what makes you happy.
Exactly. And just, and how important it is, when you're speaking of generation, of kind of seeing the generation before us, what the world looked like for them, and trying to separate that from the world you want to pass forward, and break those cycles.
Absolutely. It's all about breaking those generational, things that may not have been the best, and just enforcing like new ways of living. Yeah. And hopefully they just keep that cycle going, and it gets better and better. And my great grandkids are living their absolute best life from birth. Yeah,
exactly. And, it's interesting when we look at the media we grew up with, and some of, in one conversation I had was like about how Grease was a great movie for us. And yet the younger generation, it just doesn't fly for them, because they're like, a woman loses herself in a relationship with a man. There's the smoking, the changing of dressing, and then it like doesn't play for the younger generation. It doesn't match their morals and values. And it's like crazy to think about that, because I love the journey of Grease,
I loved Grease. That was like the sleepover staple to watch with your friends, and romantically hopeless, and all of that, the singing, and but no, you're absolutely right. It doesn't translate over to like the new generation and how they feel, and how they're a lot more independent, and and creating their own paths.
Yeah, and the values, that we're teaching them, it doesn't line up anymore. And so I'm curious, as you're kind of introducing your daughter to films, have you stumbled upon some of that? Are there certain ones that surprise you that she connects to or doesn't connect with?
So I'm really careful about what I introduce her to, just for that reason. There are things that we were probably watching when we were younger that just don't fly with me as a parent to introduce to my daughter yet. Even like, let's say the movie Big. I love that, but there were so many mature themes within there that I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to discuss those things yet, or introduce her mind to that. But I do love sharing movies with her, like The Little Rascals, or like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like, all of those things are still very like wholesome, and I feel like, things that she enjoys with me. There are some times where she'll run off and she'll be like, uninterested in certain parts, but there's still a lot of great movies from the past that we can like share with our kids. And even the Disney movies, which is really where it started for me as well. Like the Cinderellas, the Snow Whites, those all still translate. There's the new Little Mermaid, so those are all timeless tales that we enjoy watching together. And around Christmas, we watch the Home Alones, and she's super into those. They just are one of those like timeless tales, and those are still really wholesome, films. Yeah. They wouldn't work today because, if a kid got left at home, they have their iPads and everything else to just call us and we'll be back in a second. But it's cool to watch that fantasy still play out.
Yeah. Having a kid be the hero, setting the traps. And, I think, do you find that there's good movies for your daughter coming out today?
There are. We definitely go to the movies often. But then also I feel like they try to make the films to also please the adults sometimes. And so there's also those like mature themes. Like we saw Barbie 3 times in the movie theater this summer, and she absolutely loved it. But there were some things that came up that I was like, ooh, I don't know, but they would just like fly over her head and then, please me as an adult viewer. But yeah, I enjoy the route that cinema is taking and how modernized things are.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's an interesting time. I mean, until Barbie, I felt like I'm feeling like a lot of the kind of teenage content is going directly to streaming.
Yeah.
And then it's, hard because of the algorithms to discover things outside of your own ideals. I love how Netflix has international like teen shows, and your daughter's still a little young for some of those shows, but you're getting to see how different people in different parts of the world that are her age engage and interact and have similar stories. I think can bring cultures together.
Yeah, I can't wait till she gets into that. But for now, we definitely read books that kind of bring that perspective to her. And, but yeah, a lot of things are streaming now. So it definitely takes away from time in the cinema, like, which I said growing up, like that was like a family date night thing that we would do together. So we love when a film is released in the theater that we can check out together.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything do you have a sense of her taste? Like, is she what she's into? Have you discovered that yet?
I guess she's still kind of exploring and discovering those type of things about herself. Right now, she's really into a show it's a movie. It's called Monster High. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was based off of a TV show that was on Nickelodeon, I want to say, and they made it into now a movie thing. So she's still into the fantasy and things that are adaptations from shows she used to watch when she was even younger, or books, or Barbie she really enjoyed, like I said, The Little Mermaid. So she's still really in that young phase and really into adaptations of things that have evolved from when she was younger. Yeah. Fantasy, zombies on Disney. We can't get enough of the zombies.
Can I ask what books you have been sharing with her?
Right now she's reading a book about a girl from Rwanda who is learning how to walk. She was born with clubbed feet. Mm-hmm. And so it's just an inspirational tale of this young woman and everything she had to do to learn how to walk, and just her lifestyle in Rwanda. It's called, oh God, the name is escaping me right now, but I'll try to send it through. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds really interesting.
No, it is. And it's great to see her be interested in other people's lives. And she's like, Mommy, can you Google? She gave me the girl's name. She's like, Google her present 2023. I need to see, is she walking? And she's going, I'm like, you have to read the story and find out. But she's like, I know, I want to see pictures of her now and what she looks like. So I love to see her interest in the world and other people's stories, and how it affects her. And so I love to see that. And then she has her other books. She has a whole library in her room of different books that she reads, from fantasy, Harry Potter. She's starting to get into Diary of a Wimpy Kid, because that really plays into, their school culture. The list goes on. We try to really keep her active in her reading, just to keep her imagination going, and less screen time is always preferred. So we like to keep her active in her reading.
Yeah, I had a guest who was a writer, and he, a couple of different guests actually, who say they want their kids to read the books before they see the movies. So rather than Harry Potter, rather than reading one, watching one, reading one, watching one, they had them read all of the books before they watched any of the movies, so that they could really have their own imagination of the characters before, Hollywood gave it to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. But my daughter, unfortunately with Harry Potter, she got into the films first, talking about it at school. And then she became interested. She's like, oh, I want to read the books to see how it lines up, and if it's just like the movie, or so
yeah. I'm it just crashed on me. I've been taking this course on AI filmmaking, and it's taking a lot of my computational power making different kind of animations from AI generated imagery and stuff. So that may be what's happening with my computer. But I apologize. This has been such a great
No worries. I think we were talking about Harry Potter.
Yeah. And just kind of, I have like the aspiration. I like love hearing how your daughter and how you encourage your daughter to read fall in love with these story worlds. And it's something I aspire to do with my son, is really to get him to just love stories in general and develop his imagination. And film is one of those tools, but not the only one.
Yeah, no, film is definitely one of those tools. I feel like from a young age, though, I just always used to read to her. Even when she was a baby and probably didn't even comprehend, we would always just read it and read it really animated and just, try to make her interested in it. And then as her reading skills started developing in school, then she started wanting to incorporate reading into her life more. So... And then there's just the whole Harry Potter thing. It just reminds me of like me when I was younger and Romeo and Juliet, learning about Romeo and Juliet and then having it come out and Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet playing those roles. It kind of gives me those type of vibes for myself. Yeah. It made me more interested in the story of Romeo and Juliet past what we learned about it in our English classes.
That movie is a special one. It's like, I don't know anyone from our generation who did not fall in love with Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie.
That movie was everything. You're making me want to go watch that tonight as my comfort film. Yeah.
I love the soundtrack of that film also.
Oh yeah, Claire Danes was Juliet, not Kate Winslet. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Titanic. Yes.
But they came out so close together. Like I remember that same era of it was, I was really into Basketball Diaries, and I felt like I discovered Leo.
Oh yeah, yes.
Romeo and Juliet came out, and then Titanic came out, and I was like,
It was the Leonardo DiCaprio era for our youth. Like he definitely was prevalent all throughout youth and important films that I feel like shaped a generation.
Yeah. And, he worked with really interesting directors. So, it allowed, a generation to really get engaged with filmmaking in a great way.
Yeah, definitely. Played a lot of important roles for us.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you my last question, which is, what film should I show my son Miles to? It can be at any age. It can be when he's a teenager, so that he falls in love with cinema.
Oh, at any age. Okay, so if you're going to do it soon, are you opposed to cartoons and I would say a Disney movie, just for the magical aspects of it and the way they make you feel and how you guys can enjoy it together. Cause even to this day, new Disney films that come out, I take my daughter to see there's parts in it for me to enjoy or cry about. I'm always crying in a Disney movie. And it's such a cute thing to experience together and just to watch the wonder in his eyes as the different images and colors pop up. And, Disney is always they're always going above and beyond with each and every production. So if it's not too cliche to say, I would definitely say a Disney film.
Is there one in particular that comes to mind?
That's so hard. Like I said, I started with my daughter with the Cinderellas, the Snow Whites, the OG movies, but there are so many good ones that are out right now. Like Coco, which is an amazing story about family. Encanto, another amazing story about family and just belief in yourself. I could go on and on. I may be a Disney adult low key, I think. I would go with one of those bright, fun ones. Each of them has an amazing theme and story and message behind it. Yeah.
He's been really into Winnie the Pooh.
I love Winnie.
Yeah, he's been really into that. So that's been sort of our first full movie that he's been, we've watched it already 10 times, but that's the one he asked for. Pooh. And then he sees the little Mickey Mouse in the beginning of it, those opening slides. And he's like, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse is always everyone's first favorite.
Yeah. So we're gearing up for within the next year, we'll do a Disney trip. So we'll probably start getting in the world of Disney pretty soon.
Exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking film and life with you.
If you enjoyed the conversation, please don't forget to like and subscribe. New episodes release every Wednesday. And leave a comment and let me know which movie you think I should show my son. Until next time, take care.